Hello, and welcome to Paranormal, more normal than we think. Today, I've got kind of a special show, so I've actually got two people I'm going to interview, and it's just me. Cody's not here today. I've got Anchordog, and he's going to tell us about one of his experience, or a couple. He's also got some theater stuff going on that I would like to advertise because it's incredibly artistic and it's a good idea to me. And then we have Just Johnson, and he said he was an experiencer to the Cube over Missouri, you said?
Yeah.
All right, well, let's begin with Anchordog. So, tell me your first experience, like your very, very first experience. Hey guys, I just wanted to start this video out by letting y'all know that this channel is not just a UFO channel. It's a UFO and a gaming channel, also a little bit of photography. Now, I've gotten a lot of hate, a lot of flack from, having gaming in my channels. So, just kind of want to let y'all know, if you don't like gaming, like, I want everybody I can get. But the whole point when I made this channel was to unite gaming and UFO communities together. And I've gotten a lot of people who say, oh, I saw gaming and I immediately clicked away. Well, this is what you can do. If you want to listen to this interview, which I would implore everybody to do, just, don't watch the video. Just listen to it. But for those of you that like gaming, there it is. But what I've decided to do is I'm going to have a UFO section. I'm going to have a part where I do UFO stuff, and I'm going to have stock footage and videos in the background to please the UFO community. And then I'm going to have gaming videos to please the gaming community that has nothing to do with UFOs. So, there it is. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to hate on nobody. It's just everybody has something to say about my channel and how to run my channel. And that's not how this works. Anyways, thank y'all, and I hope you enjoy the interview.
The experiences that I've had are kind of related to high strangeness, paranormal, what I was thinking of as ghosts for some time, but I'm now kind of like starting to piece together, put more into this kind of puzzle of the phenomenon and different contact modalities for interacting with non-human intelligence, like discarnate energy personalities. When I was probably about 4 years old, I remember, it's one of the earliest memories that I have. I remember this really odd experience of waking up, at least what I thought was waking up. It's definitely possible that this was a dream, and I thought of it as probably a dream that was really realistic at the time. But also now, in more recent years, I'm starting to investigate dreams as being potentially more meaningful, more impactful, having more realness,
More
reality to them.
tangible feeling to them.
Right, and possibly kind of interacting with this waking world more than people normally would.
God, I hope
and
not.
so,
Because last night I got bit by a copperhead on my thumb and I died. So I hope it's not real.
I personally, I think that that's a really big component of the phenomenon, is that it's so connected to our minds and what we can and the power that we have to create with our minds, and it being connected to dreams and subconscious, that the powers that be are worried that if people too quickly realize that mental power, that it could kind of be out of control and people could summon demons,
okay, so
seriously,
a good example of that, when I had my awakening experience, some crazy stuff happened. Regardless, I started thinking, what if consciousness does have more power than we think? And then I immediately was like, all right, well, if I can conjure stuff, let me go ahead and conjure something that would tear through my room just to prove to me that it's real. And that would absolutely prove to me. But that's the chaotic part of my brain. And of course, you don't want that. You don't want a meteor tearing through your room. We don't have a safety like a rifle does. We have no safety. So if we accidentally think of something, if we could conjure stuff and we accidentally think of those weird dark thoughts and it happens immediately, the whole world would be on fire. So I feel like there is some kind of safety. So I feel that.
Right, and this is like been a topic like in the occult and the practice of magic and sorcery throughout history, and also the practice of like a Buddhist yoga powers, and also Taoist powers or Taoist powers of China. Like the people who practice these things like recognize that it actually is, it's very real and has a super potential to do potential harm. So you've got to be really careful with it. So I'm 4 years old, and I'm sure that like some people would immediately kind of think like, okay, so how valid is this going to be? But it was it's like seared into my brain, this moment in time. It had a very peculiar kind of like time dilation effect that I remember later, but that later on with psychedelic compounds, under the influence of psychedelics, I could experience like this same kind of time stretching that was like really odd. It's like when your perception of time is like being warped and like stretched and changed, then it's just like so disorienting. And so I remember feeling wicked up, like I'm 4 years old, and just being like creeped out by this feeling as these three beings that were like, I thought ghosts at the time, because they were three like seemingly like identical size, build beings with like giant cloaks and hoods over the face, or hoods that are covering enough that you just like can't see. There's a void of like no face,
like a cultist robe.
Yeah, it had a vibe of, it definitely had a vibe of like in the Disney Mickey Mouse like Christmas Carol story,
Yep.
Ghost of Christmas Future, super scary, like with a big like kind of funeral shroud, like or something like.
They had a void for their face.
Well, it's like I just very dark, so you can't see their face. Kind of similar also to the ring wraiths of the Lord of the Rings, that like the cloak is coming down enough that like, and the face is so dark. Also, it was nighttime. It's like dark in the room and the hallway that they were in. So it was like we were in this tiny little apartment, and so there's like a room. There's also a hallway like right there. It's like there's the kitchen right, like super tight, and I can see right into like the hallway, and there was light. I didn't really like to sleep like in the total darkness at that time. Mm-hmm. And so these beings like definitely seemed very otherworldly at the time, which I thought of as ghost immediately. I would never have thought of as like maybe they're aliens. Like that's totally
that's a wild
brand new thought, like that came in as soon as people started to say like, actually what we're thinking is that alien like ET phenomena and poltergeist, ghost, paranormal stuff is connected. I was like, oh, that's awesome. I'm so psyched. Well, I really was like so pumped to hear that. Well, so they glided out of view. They looked like they looked at me and were like concerned that I was seeing them, and they like left pretty quickly and glide. It's like everything about them just did not feel normal to me.
So they just left you alone?
It seemed like they all looked at me and then like kind of were like, well, he's like aware and awake right now, so let's leave him alone and get out of here. Like, and I was very, very creeped out, definitely. Like I totally thought of ghosts only. And so I can put it around 4 years old, because I think that about 5 years old was when we moved out of this apartment, which I know, working with preschoolers and kindergartners, that like actually makes quite a difference to kids' development. This strange time dilation feeling and interacting with beings who are behaving really strangely, like that's definitely something that has happened a couple more times, more than a couple of times. We don't have time to go to all of them, but I'll yield the floor. But I also I'll tell, if we have time, I can tell also about most recent experience, which is really
Yeah, so what we'll do,
an interesting.
I'm going to jump to Johnson and let him tell his story,
Mhm.
and then we'll jump back to you, and you can tell your advertisement about your theater stuff, and then you can tell me your most recent experience, if that's okay with you.
Sounds good.
All right, Johnson, what you got for me, man?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. So my name is Justin. I'm from Springfield, Missouri, and I've kind of been a hobbyist in this kind of subject matter for about, I don't know, 12 to 15 years or so. Watch a lot of documentaries, always been a fan, knew there had to be something out there, but I've never really seen anything with my own eyes until about a month ago. I was driving home from work, and it was about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and I come upon something. It was flickering in the sky, and I thought it was possibly a helicopter, which is like not abnormal for this area because we have a couple hospitals, so they fly through here periodically. As I got closer to it, I noticed that it probably wasn't a helicopter. I thought it was maybe a piece of trash or something flipping through the air.
Oh, like a plastic bag or something?
Well, or like a deflated balloon, or I don't know, a tarp, or who knows. It wasn't very windy that day though, so it'd be kind of odd for something to be blowing through the air. It was actually a beautiful day. It was like blue as could be, very little clouds. And as I got closer to this thing, I got a really good look on it because I was probably within 500 feet of it. And this thing looked like a solid metal cube, and it was spinning like a disco ball in the air. And yeah, it was rush hour traffic, and I was in a work vehicle, but I had enough sense because I watched a lot of this stuff online, that I whipped into the turn lane and got my phone out and tried to catch as much of it as I could. It was rush hour traffic, so as I was doing it, cars were blowing by me. When I first spotted this thing, it was kind of heading southwest towards downtown from our kind of smaller airport we have here in town. I guess it kind of slowed down over downtown for a little bit because I was able to get about a minute of it before it started to kind of move out of sight. And I felt like I was becoming a hazard to traffic. So I put my phone away and continued to drive home. And I watched this thing fly off to the northwest out towards our bigger airport. At the time, I didn't really know what I'd seen. I knew it was kind of different. When I got home, my adrenaline was pumping.
Oh, yeah.
I was kind of shaken when I got home. I immediately called everybody I could, and I asked them if they had saw it. They said they didn't see it. You know, it was really weird because it was like rush hour traffic. This thing flew all the way across town, just strolling. It wasn't like blazing speed or anything. About as fast as a helicopter would fly over town. Yeah, very strange. Nobody else seemed to have saw it. I've reached out to like all the local news agencies, but really got nowhere with that.
Yeah, you probably won't. Do you have the video now?
Yeah, I can give you the YouTube link to it, or
Yes, do that, and in my video, I'll link to you. That way, the audience can check it out. Maybe it'll get more attention that way.
It's a cube. That thing's a cube with lights. It's a cube.
Here lately, some of the bigger YouTubers like Mr. B and Secure Team have picked it up. I've kind of dropped it on Twitter quite a bit, and it's spread around on there a little bit. But nowhere near the attention it's needing to get for how clean that is and how obvious that it's not something normal.
Yeah, because if it was trash, it would have already moved into a direction.
I'm on Glenstone.
A few weeks ago, I did an interview with a guy named Vinny, and he runs Secure, or what was it, Disclosure
It's got
Team.
lights around it.
And he got a written statement from Lou Elizondo that he had seen this and that he agreed that it was a UAP. So
Dude,
that
that's
was really cool.
nuts, man.
Nice.
Okay, so yeah, I'll definitely link that for y'all. Show him some love, guys. Show him some attention, because that is not an everyday sighting. That's nowhere near my sighting. I've never seen anything that clear.
I couldn't believe it flew like that low over Springfield, like broad daylight. And nobody else has really come out about it, or if they have, like they just don't know how to get it out there or something.
See, that's kind of why I started this, because of stories like yours, stories like Anchordogs. I want to give y'all a platform. I will do everything I can to share that and show that to everybody, literally everybody. So
I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem,
it's awesome.
man. Like, when I say I'm gonna share it, I mean, like, you're probably gonna get annoyed because people are gonna come to you. I'm not gonna give up.
Bring it on. I really want to figure out what this thing was, because that's unnerving.
Yeah,
and,
that's probably not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like I told AJ in my last interview, we're not gonna find out, in my opinion, what this is until we pass. And I hate to say that, but I just feel like consciousness is so linked to this phenomenon, and I feel like consciousness doesn't die. I don't know where it goes. I don't know what it does, but I just don't feel like it would die. But I feel like
there's a lot theorizing, at least about that, and there's been thinking about that topic, or where consciousness goes when we die, regarding consciousness and what exactly it is, and whether it could be potentially like could you have a piece of consciousness, like an individuated unit of consciousness, perhaps. That could be a way of describing what a person is, or a sentient life form. But the Buddhists and Taoists and also mystics of all sorts of traditions over the millennia have been investigating this, and they totally, they've done so much personal investigation, and so they have a lot of knowledge about what happens. I mean, it's like there's definitely a part of us that is undying, but it's not really, I don't think it's that your whole self that's you right now is gonna just walk into the afterlife. But I think that there is some other realm. I think it's sort of a larger realm than this that contains this realm. And so as you die in this realm, you leave and withdraw from this realm and back into the larger containing sort of system. Plato, when he had a near-death experience, or somebody close to him had it or something, Plato described a near-death experience in terms of withdrawing from the body, the soul withdrawing from the body, whereas a lot of people who have near-death experiences in modern times talk about leaving the body, and it posits a different place where the soul is existing. It's like, if you think you're leaving the body, then you think the soul is only in your body, and that's where it exists. But Plato's idea was more of the soul is this larger thing, and it's placing its little toe into the body, and when you die it withdraws its toe. So also this is really connected to the interview that I've read of it's an alleged interview with an alien, with an ET, by I think Matilda McDouglas, something like that. I don't remember her name exactly, but she, when she was much older, she alleged that she had talked to an ET in the late 40s after the ET crashed, and it's this long series of interviews that she had telepathically, allegedly, with this entity, and the entity talks a lot about the nature of reality and what we humans on Earth really are, which is basically eternal, immortal, spirit pieces that really can't die, but are currently under amnesia and can't remember that they're actually immortal. It can't remember past lives. It's it fits in with, it fits in so much with what some people's story is of the space opera of Earth and stuff. It's pretty legit. I think that she really did talk telepathically with this alien, with this ET, and it fits I think, nicely with what I with my understanding of what's going on. But like, basically, like the ET keeps on referring to humans on Earth as fellow, like we are just like that. The ET, we're actually spirit, like inhabiting a body. And so the ET calls us immortal spiritual beings. Pretty cool too. It's like
Oh, yeah,
not
absolutely.
really a negative thing.
No, if that's true, like, hell yeah, more power to it, man. All right, Justin. So, what do you think about the whole consciousness situation? Like, do you think that there's reincarnation? Do you think that Anchordog's right? Do you have your own belief? Like, how far down this rabbit hole are you? Because I want to get to know about you as well.
So I'm pretty fluid, open-minded on this subject. I grew up in the Midwest, like square in the middle of the Bible Belt, Southern Baptist. We went to church when we were kids and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But as I got older, I started kind of looking into this stuff here and there, and kind of studying all the other religions and trying to figure out what was going on with them. And I've become a lot more open-minded about the subject. I'm not going to claim that I was ever a really avid churchgoer. You know, we were kids and stuff, but as I got out on my own, I was a lot more open-minded. I definitely think there's more that none of us really understand completely. I think there are some religions that kind of get closer to like some of the more Eastern ones, like Buddhism. I think there probably is something more like reincarnation, because this is all just too amazing to randomly occur, and there has to be something after all this. I mean, there has to be something to consciousness. I mean, science can't explain it, religion tries, but I don't think any of them are really on it. I mean, I've delved off into talking to some people about some of the other fringe things like simulation theory, and I've seen validation in that. I mean, when you start looking at the science and the math behind everything, like, is this all really just coincidence, or is something designing it? But then you start looking at like these UFOs coming in, and like this one I saw, and that even opens your mind more. Like, I've had people approach me with all kinds of explanations about this thing, like it's a glitch in the matrix, or it's an angel, or like it's just all over the spectrum, and it's pretty amazing in that regard. But yeah, I try to stay really open-minded. I think organized religion in general has it kind of wrong, and I think it's more of a control mechanism than I got its purpose at one point in our existence, in our evolution, that it was kind of necessary for us to get civilized. But I think now we've gotten to a point as a species where we need to kind of look beyond that and start really looking for our place in the universe, because like, we're in a very exciting time right now with all the disclosure that's happening on the daily, with the government agencies coming out and all these people and all these sightings. Like, everybody like me has a cell phone right now, and they can just catch these things in broad daylight. And like, I was a hobbyist in this subject until about a month ago when I saw this thing, and it's really like sucked me in. And I've joined like every social platform, followed about everybody you can in this thing. And if you really get to looking online, like, these things are being spotted daily. I've had so many people reach out to me with similar experiences to mine. Like, here locally, as soon as I posted this thing online and like spread it as much as possible, I had all kinds of local people reach out to me saying, hey, I've seen things just like that, but at night, or I wasn't able to get a video. Missouri MUFON looked into this incident, and they had a really kind of scary statistic on this, that basically less than 1% of like witnesses like me come forward with these things because they're too scared of like the repercussion of like coming out, like they'll be crazy or something. And here recently, I had a private investigator here locally reach out to me, and he said he had
So I'll put this clip in because what the hell is this? Anyways, enjoy.
Experience himself like several months ago, and he had that exact same sentiment. Like, man, I didn't want to be the crazy UFO guy, so I didn't come out with mine. But I don't know, I guess just seeing everything that I have online made me, and plus being like kind of an outspoken person, just gave me the gall to like go after this, because I think I got something really good right here. It's pretty clear. I can tell you right now, it's not a hoax. Like, I have no reason to fake this. I just want to know what's going on like everybody else.
Right. Well, let me say this. You have touched on so many subjects in just that paragraph that it's not even funny. Like, everything you just said is identical to me. I'm born and raised in Alabama. Churchgoer as a child, grew up, learned better. I agree with what you said about, religion was used as a control mechanism, and eventually we outgrew that, and we need to think forward. I mean, dude, everything you said is how I feel. And at one point you were saying that people don't want to come out, and that's why I'm here. I am here to get y'all's story out. And if you come to me and you don't want to be, if you don't want your real name, I'm not going to say your real name. My first interviewer, he told me I could say his first and last name, and I turned him down. I was like, no, man, I'm not going to do that. I'll say your first name, but I'm not giving away who you are, because right now it is a very touchy subject. But if I can get people on this show and start talking to me about it, they'll start talking to other people about it. Eventually they'll come out in their hometown, and we'll have, I guess, sleeper cells all around, the country. And then whenever disclosure happens...
They just announced that today, actually.
Oh, really?
It's called Astro. It's a new government organization that's going to look into these subjects. They just talked about it today.
See, coincidences, man, I swear coincidences aren't a thing. It's synchronicity.
It's an exciting time. And I think me and you relate, and I think it's more than just me and you. I think it's this whole generation. Like we have a generation that grew up with technology where knowledge was just a fingertip away. The things we learned in school, but not really what we learned in school, because they didn't teach us much about this. They had a government curriculum they had to teach you, but they taught us the ability to be curious and question things. And we took that and we started looking at the world around us. And I think our whole generation and the generation that we're raising are all okay, maybe there's more to this story that we're not being told right now.
Exactly. Well, I want to go back to Anchordog, and I want you to go ahead and talk about your project, your theater stuff, and then after that, I want your last experience.
So, I have a project that is it's always been a vehicle to explain my perspective and my experiences that I've had before I really connected up the paranormal with the sort of phenomenon of ET. I thought that basically this stuff it's all so fringe. It's I've got to, if I'm going to be at all open about it or bring it into the open, what I decided to do was use kind of a filter on it, the filter of presenting it as a story. And that way I could still say everything that I want to say, but it's got a certain kind of response because of it being presented in that way. And I find that even presenting certain concepts as fantasy and fiction or science fiction, sometimes it's just even that is very far out for some folks. And you can kind of get a sense of just how difficult it'll be, I think, for some people to grapple with the reality of the phenomenon. I actually was thinking about how people often speculate about who's going to take this the most swimmingly, who's going to do well with this new information in terms of groups of people on Earth. Will religious people freak out, or will, I think, non-religious people, atheist types who make fun of people who believe in a sky god? They're isn't that so silly, these people who believe in a sky god? Well, there's it's much closer to the strangeness of reality, I think, than believing that this is all some random kind of blind intentionless nothingness. There's seemingly a creation here, so that implies that there's a creator, and then sure, there's this weird paradox of who created the creator? Oh, gotcha. It's well, there's just a really strange paradox here that that really, this is what the Buddha penetrated to. I was just reading a biography of the Buddha's life. The Buddha penetrated to the reality that that there's a portion of this universe and of each one of us that's really unborn and undying. Like it's like this, it's very weird to wrap your mind around, because like we can't conceive of something that has no birth and it has no beginning. But there is something, there's this one thing, which is like everything, which just like has no beginning to it. And it's totally mind warping, but
It really is.
and that brings me to perfectly segued right into so my project is like doing stories for kids, but the stories are freaking weird. They're like surreal, wild stuff involving aliens, ETs, and from the get-go it's always been interdimensional astral projection, spirit travel, reincarnated talking dogs who are ETs themselves, who do dream travel. They do this like silly thing called remote chewing instead of remote viewing. And that's how you transcend dentally. And like it is like pretty packed with like really silly puns in the spirit of Pogo by Walt Kelly, or Crazy Cat by George Harriman, and Calvin and Hobbes. I love like funny, silly stories that are also kind of a platform to say something meaningful. So this is my plan for soft and fuzzy disclosure for kids. Like trying to make this topic, like if you notice, like every single podcast about this starts off with some X-Files kind of sounding music, and like every all the content is so like spooky. It's always like like aliens, and it's like come
they're the
on,
bad guys.
we've got to get a little less creepy here, and like emphasize some of the more, in my opinion at least, and especially when it comes to getting kids on board, and this is like always been my perspective, is that like we need to change the paradigm. For this topic, like there's a paradigm shift that's necessary for people to like really get on board with like the reality of this, and like where we go next, and like how we grow as a whole species, and like and a society. And so like,
can we talk about that a little more? Like the paradigm, what is it that you think, what kind of direction do you think we need to go in as far as disclosure? Like what momentum do we need to take in your thought process?
Well, before we do that,
yeah.
I want you to, Anchordog, I want you to tell me the name of your project so people can look it up and check it out, if that's at all possible. Like, do you have any kind of website or anything?
It does have a website, yeah. And I'm trying to kind of make it like everything's on there for free, that you can just see it, and it's not monetized. Just keep it kind of pure. And so it's the project is Shiprock and Anchordog. But yeah, so to answer, so about the where I think we need to go, and not just based on my own personal thoughts, but kind of like a synthesis of what I've read and kind of internalized. I think that the human species on Earth needs to essentially like get to a place of literal like enlightenment. It's not so out of reach or mysterious, or like I really think that there's a kind of a practical level of enlightenment that we can reach, like all to like it. I don't think that all of a sudden like super like mean-spirited or like people are gonna instantly shift like and become like super kind hippies. It's just that like there's a kind of a critical mass of people who reach. So to be a little more specific, it's like it's a state of super connectedness with the natural world and animals that live on the planet, and with all the other people that live in the society, and it's like real harmony, like a real extremely robust harmony of civilization, where we are directing all of our energy towards connectedness, away from destructive kinds of activities, like things that destroy the biosphere or destroy like any human life or any life. It's kind of like a Star Trek, completely automated luxury space communism kind of post-scarcity type of society. It's close to utopia, although I don't really believe that total utopia is really possible. I think it's always like a improving kind of scenario, always being improved upon. I think we could end up with a kind of stagnation if we had some sort of like total utopia. I think like we need a little bit of friction.
I think eventually that would fade away, and when I say eventually, I mean like a very long time from now. I feel like we would mature enough as a species to fully have a utopia, and at that point, what's in my mind, what's the difference between us and, you know, the personality that people say grays have, that neutral, just, they're not happy, they're not sad, they're just there. And I feel like that's what this leads to.
I want to definitely be clear that I do not want to go there, and I also don't think that's the inevitable outcome. I also don't think the grays are as emotionless as they seem. At least the more biological ones. I think there probably are some that are like seem to be essentially drones, but the ones that are still like biological entities, I think, do experience emotion, but it's just sort of a different modality. It's like hard for us to understand. But what I think of, it's like people often talk about like the Buddha's enlightenment, or like the enlightenment of Lao Tzu, of Taoism, as being like numb and like detached, kind of like not caring about anything, kind of, or at least it seems like that's sometimes like a misconception about it, like, because it's definitely like a really, really wild, like opening up to everything. It's like very like open rather than like closed off or like numb. It's like feeling everything. It's like becoming essentially like connected up to like the whole universe, like so much that like basically like you're like every part of you is connected. And it's definitely it's like a really joyous kind of like really spectacular state of consciousness. It's definitely like it's not like low energy, it's not bleak, it's not like sad, it's not like you want to go to bed or go back to sleep or something. It's like totally freaking like alive, ready for anything, like so filled up with life that like you don't even have any desire for anything. You don't need anything or have any need or any want, like, because you're just like completely filled and like wholeness.
Let me interject real quick. So I actually have an experience. So the last interview I just did, I told my experience, and I haven't told nobody, but I told him. So when that video goes up, I want y'all to watch it, everybody, and it explains my experience, my awakening, what brought me to this point, and the emotion you're talking about. I felt it, and I can explain to y'all after this video. But we are running over the 45-minute mark, so I think I have a good idea. So next time I want to interview you again. Would you like to come back on the show?
I'm totally down.
All right, sweet. What I'm gonna do is break this up into 2 episodes. We will do your most recent experience on the next episode. That way it gives the audience something to a reason to want to watch the next episode. You know what I mean? Kind of like a cliffhanger, basically.
Totally. Yeah, it involves what I perceived as some sort of interdimensional snake entity.
Oh wow!
A whole bunch of them. It's definitely like the most profound. Like out of all the experiences I've had, I was like, holy shit! Everybody's gonna know. Everybody's gonna know. And they literally said to me, they're like, go ahead, tell them.
Oh my gosh!
And they like laughed about it. They were like very trickster kind of energy at that moment. They're like, yeah, go ahead and tell them. And I was like, oh shit, yeah, nobody's gonna believe this.
Well, y'all be prepared for some high strangeness on the next episode with Anchordog. Next time it'll be just me and Anchordog. Probably here soon I'm gonna do an interview with Justin and just him. So I've got a lot planned. It's overwhelming, to be honest, because I've got to edit all this myself and I don't even know how to do it. But until then, do y'all have any closing statements?
I appreciate you for having me on, man, and helping me get this out there.
Absolutely. What about you, Anchordog?
Yeah, I really appreciate the work that you're doing, and it's the kind of thing that I really want to support. This kind of positive take on this topic. Staying kind of keeping our head up and being forward thinking, and it's inspiring.
Well, I appreciate that. I really do. All the love, guys, I appreciate it more than anything. But y'all remember, this show would be nothing without y'all. This isn't just my show. Like I say, this is our show. Because I may edit it, I may, set up the interviews, but it's really nothing without y'all. So, actually, thank y'all. Thank you. Thank Justin. Thank David. Thank John, AJ, everybody, thank everybody. And the future people I'm going to interview. But, until then, like I always say, y'all have a good one.